All right, fantastic. Welcome, everybody. Glad to have you all here back at the SaaS Alerts Community Call. Jim, I think this is number 482, something like that now.
I think so, yeah. Maybe 41. I don't know. Right around there.
All right. So Jim didn't have any updates. Michelle, anything on the marketing side? I know Leron has some stuff, so I'm going to go to him momentarily, but do you have any?
Yeah, I just wanted to remind folks that we do have our Reddit community that I can't find any of my stuff. Our Reddit community where we're moving more of our SaaS-y stuff over to. So I'm going to drop that in the chat for you. And I did just post the winners in the Cool Rule Challenge. Their videos are up on our YouTube channel, so you can check those out. The templates are in production. They're just going to make sure that they're all working the way they should. So those will be up and we'll let you know when they are. And then this is, Andrew, you can probably speak to this more about the Bo Bullock webinars we have coming up on 3 Saturdays.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I will let you do that.
Jim can chime in too. Yeah, so we're going to have Bo Bullock back. Did anybody just in chat, were you on the first webinar that we did with Bo by any chance? Anybody? I've done that. Yeah. Good. Yeah, some people. So Bo works for Black Hills Information Security. He, if you don't know who Black Hills is, it's John Strand's company. If you don't know who John Strand is, they are arguably globally considered one of the top offensive groups. So this is, you're talking Fortune 50 that they do pen testing and red teaming for. And Bo is going to be joining us doing backdoors and breaches, but they've now come out with a cloud edition. So a lot of the attacks that, SaaS Alerts deals with and that you guys are dealing with SaaS applications, and some of the stuff that we're going to talk about today from the Verizon data breach report, which is the area I'm going to go into when I get to my section. We're going to be going sorry, I just saw Ben's comment. Yes, Ben, I agree. Yes, I lost my complete train of thought. Yes, but Bo,
you're right, Andrew. You dealt me down.
Andy, it's only going crashing and burning from here. But yeah, but we're going to take in these 3 different SaaS calls. We're going to devote it as almost like a webinar. And we're going to use different procedures and tactics that threat actors are using and that Bo actually uses as an offensive attacker for his cloud engagements. And then what things you can do to mitigate these types of things, what detective controls you can put in place. So I'm really excited about it. And then the goal obviously would be ideally for you guys to take these types of things and monetize them, sit down with your clients, go through these things. So I'm thrilled to have Bo back with us. He's very articulate and he brings things down to, I think, Jim, the cool thing about Bo is he doesn't talk above people's heads. It's very consumable.
Right. Yeah. I will also mention too, in terms of the way we're going to do these calls, obviously these SaaS MSP calls, these are our partners. You are all of our partners, right? We're making an exception for those 3, the July 10th, 10th, 17th, 23rd.
13th. I think 13th, 20th, 27th.
Yeah, thank you, Michelle. So anyone can join. So if you have friends, in the community, in terms of, MSP community that maybe in your peer group or something, they're not even a partner of SaaS Alerts, feel free to join them for those 3 weeks. We're going to open that one up to everybody.
Yeah, like if you're in a peer group, like send out the link. Once Michelle has the landing page or whatever, send it out to your peer group.
I was going to ask if we could get a flyer or something that we could digitally send to our peer group members. I think that would be great.
That's exactly what I was going to ask. If you have something, I'm happy to forward it to our group.
Yeah, because this is a great way for you guys to leverage goodwill and build a larger MSP base.
Great. It's currently on the SaaS y MSP page. There's a breakdown of it, but I can put something specific together
for an invite. right? Come join us as our guest.
Yeah, it's not set up as a webinar, so they don't have to register. But I can set something up specifically for you guys to share.
Thank you, Michelle.
Sure.
Michelle, knowing you're a musician, will you be our guest, like, in Beauty and the Beast? Maybe a little like audio message there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, she's got the guitar,
Well, you know what? That's the great thing about Bo. He's in, I think, a metal band. I can't remember the name, but it's got a fun name. So I think we should have him do that, because I'm sure he's better
Michelle,
than I am.
don't dodge. Here's the thing, folks. Michelle and I have been talking via Zoom here for over a year and a half. Okay. That guitar has been in the same spot.
No,
I don't even know.
I got this one at Christmas. I don't
even know if she really plays. Okay.
Right.
So we need to see it.
All right. I'll work on something.
Okay.
I'll take requests.
Okay.
Well, I think you can do the national anthem when Bo Bo starts, and we'll all salute and kick things off.
All right.
All right.
Perfect.
Rebirth. I love it. All right. So, Leron, are you with us?
I am here, yes.
All right. Leron, do you I had a slide with the 3 main bullets, but are you going to be sharing your screen? Is that necessary?
Yeah, I plan, it's going to be very brief, just 3 quick hits, and I do plan to show. So we have 3 items. As you guys know, we're working in the background on a major feature, Fortify, that we've shown you and Jim talks about regularly. So we're very excited about that. The majority of our team's working on that, but in the meantime, we also try to tackle as many small enhancements as we can along the way. So the first item I want to highlight is we've released our Synchro RMM Unify integration, thanks to Adam and his team. They've done a great job. Last week, we brought out Datto. This week, Synchro. We like the pace. The next item that we have is, due to compliance reasons with SMS, although I somehow am still regularly getting spam, but when it comes to us sending text messages, some of our partners have reported that they're not getting some SMS messages from Respond. And I'm sure you guys know, if you've ever dug through email logs, it's a lot of fun. Well, text messages are similar. And carriers are blocking these things. So now we have to jump through a bunch of compliance hoops. So I just wanted to show you guys what that looks like. This is in our QA environment and is going to be released later today. So when you go into Respond, I just have a random alert rule here. In the SMS alert section, it's going to look just a little bit different, where you're going to see phone numbers as opted in now. And when you put a new phone number in, you have to send an opt-in message to the user. And there's also this checkbox here that basically acknowledges that you want to do this. Again, doesn't really add too much to the user experience, but this is one of those things that our SMS provider, in order to meet carrier compliance, is pushing for. Andy, I see you have a question.
Yeah, I guess a next iteration, could we have the ability to not only alert besides a team member, but potentially a company lead for an incident issue, and also the user that might have been affected by this, and to be able to use those instead of numbers, but be able to pull that out of Microsoft 365 or Google, whatever that may be?
So that's a really good question. And there's a bigger philosophical question that I would pose to you as MSPs, which is, do you want SaaS alerts potentially contacting your customers without you guys controlling that we're doing it? So in the past, that's a position that we've taken and said, no, we're not going to do that. Some partners have used our RBAC features to get some of their customers in there. This would be a further step in that direction, right? Well, so if you have thoughts about that, I'd love to hear them.
I would love to be able to put the content that would go in the text as well, saying, hey, this type of alert just came and it's coming branded our piece. So we're basically saying, I want the ability to raise an alert to my team or I want to be able to raise it to my team and to a lead at the customer, or I want to alert the customer depending on the type of alert. That kind of ability, I think, has real value in service in the service offering enhancement.
But Andy, so on the flip side, presumably there's an integration into your PSA, which can have, I'll say an alerting rule or forwarding rule. Why not do it out of the PSA instead of here? Because I almost don't know that I want my clients knowing what this back end is.
Well, they won't. How would they? So the point is, if we are customizing the message and we're managing, well, so one of the challenges I face, I don't know if you guys do, it takes time for me to get my users updated in Autotask, if that's the case here, where they might be instantly updated in Microsoft 365 or Google. And I'm basically saying I want to be able to have the content managed and to be able to dictate to what degree I would notify the endpoint or notify the end user.
Yeah, I mean, I hadn't thought about setting them direct to a client, because part of it is, what are they going to do with the information?
I'm saying, hey, look, we've got impossible travel. We've hit every piece. We've disabled. Want you to know that this has happened. And
Yeah, with the respond, yes, but
that's how I'm looking at this. Is from we're using this in conjunction with your premise device. We've seen you've logged in outside of your device and it's not mobile. Hey, here's a real concern.
Got it.
Yeah.
So, Jim, there's a particular new item that we're going to be working on that I'm not sure if you want to mention or not, if you know what I'm talking about.
I know what you're talking about, and you can feel free to mention.
Okay, so we are working on beginning to design a mobile application that is going to take this entire SMS chaos and compliance out of the equation. And I think an interesting potential next iteration of that could be potentially doing an RBAC sort of situation, so role-based access control. But that's where our focus is, Andy, right now, as far as how to control the notifications that take place within Respond, just because over the last 6 to 12 months, the governing bodies of SMS have just changed things up, and receiving SMS on a consistent basis from a tool like ours, where we send a lot of SMS, is inconsistent at best. So we're going to go the mobile app direction.
I'm grateful for that. And the other piece I want you to think about is think about the different generations that are involved here. I recognize email as important, but for most people, they want a text or they want some sort of alert on their mobile device to tell them. And that's kind of where things are going. And I'm looking at it from that perspective. How do we stay valuable, compliant, connected to multiple levels within an organization? And this is one way we can do that.
Yep. So that's the direct. We're going in the mobile app direction. The mobile app initially will be limited to what it can do to mostly Respond type event handling. But moving forward, we're going to be like we do, right? We bring these things to the community and we ask you, what do you guys think about this? So that's going to be happening.
Bryson said Slack integration, Teams integration, and whatever other Discord potentially. I don't know. Those would be three types of communication that might be valuable.
Yep, all good ideas. So the next item I wanted to cover. So I just want to give you guys the heads up, right, that this is coming. And when you go in here, probably later today, it is going to be different. So just not to be caught off guard. And then the next item is, again, this was a partner enhancement request. So they were telling us, hey, we get these Respond rule triggers and these things are great, but I have to click into the rule trigger to find out why this thing actually fired. So down here in the details, and again, it's a bit lengthy, as you can see, right? But you're not going to have a stack of these things the way I do when I'm testing them. You can see that this rule triggered because I am event authentication failure occurred 10 times. Threshold is 5 within 2 hours. So you no longer have to click into the rule trigger. You can get all of your details here. In hindsight, might have been obvious, but now that we have it in here, I think it's going to be helpful, maybe save you guys some time and give you the information that you need sooner and faster. Do you guys have any product questions? All right, Andrew, to you.
Really good stuff, Leron, as always. Really, really cool. Leron, can I just ask a question since the mobile app came up?
Sure, Andrew, you always ask difficult questions, just so you know, but go right ahead.
It's his job.
Yeah.
Is the mobile app in essence for both the end user as well as the MSP? Like, what do you foresee there?
So good question, right? The mobile app's primary job is to replace SMS as a notification vehicle because of this compliance thing and the fact that our logs, right, tell us that this SMS was delivered to Andrew's carrier, and that's all we can tell you. And then you're like, I don't have it. Amanda spent 4 hours with T-Mobile support yesterday because we wanted to run this issue all the way through. And the outcome of 4 hours with support was, we're going to send you a new SIM card. I don't know what's going to happen with that, but we want to run it all the way down. So to answer the question, the primary job is to take this SMS reliance out of the equation. It's going to be for MSPs, and it's going to be for the tech that's on call. And they get a 3 a.m. Andrew just logged in from Australia. Is that normal or not? Pull over the car, pull out the mobile app, look at Andrew's logs. Yeah, he's doing stuff in Australia. I know he's not there. Block it then and there. That's going to be the primary job of the mobile app. And then to Andy's point from before, we have heard folks ask us potentially alerting their customers when things are happening, but we're not going to be looking at that just yet. We're still very much in the research and design phase for the initial mobile app, so we're not ready to look at what comes after just yet.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, if I know it's easy to tell Deb, oh, just add this, right? Later on, it's you. I'm sure you love those conversations.
Love those conversations. It's easy, right?
Yeah.
It's just one button.
It's yeah, absolutely. What's another dev cycle for you? But just because Andy brought this up, I just love people's comments on co-managed environments, because if you could add, if I'm seeing this correctly, but if you could add rollback, RBAC to this, it could be pretty empowering to a co-managed IT team, as I would see it. Am I seeing that right? And I love the MSP's perspective on this, but anybody that's got co-managed, love your input.
I see this as a great value for co-management, let alone user engagement, in the sense of like, here's an official communication channel that's essentially out of ban of the thing that we're trying to protect, that we can properly notify you when we're taking action on your behalf.
Yeah, the other thing, Ryan, I think that's really well said, is that I think also in the event, let's just say this got real messy, real ugly, cyber insurance is involved, DFIR gets involved. What a great, trail, right? To go, hey, look, your own client, go ask them for their app. Everything's sitting right there, right? So for attorney-client privilege, even, you could say, look, I don't need to go, start divulging our stuff. Go ask your customer. Everything's sitting on everything's sitting in their app.
And it closes the response time between like the user's interaction of what's going on, and allows them to be part of that conversation in a much quicker timeline than waiting for possibly email rolls to trigger, or other workflows that can have slowness in their cadence.
Yeah, good stuff.
May I take this one step further, in that if we were able to create policies around the types and methods of communication for a particular client, that would be either just an email, would be the app itself. In other words, we were able to customize this communication with a note towards, hey, we've gotten thousands of low alerts. We don't really need to deal with this, but if it's a combination of things, we want to escalate this immediately. I'm seeing the combination of events being able to customize the messaging and how it's delivered would be very helpful. Is that making sense, Liron?
Yeah, it does make sense, but just keep in mind, right, that when you set up, as you, I'm sure have seen with Respond, right, you see a series of things happening and you build a Respond rule to handle those things. But inevitably, you're going to see something that's going to fall out of your filter, right? So
Yes.
even if you set up a whole set of rules to handle these particular scenarios, you might still have one of your customers receive some alerts that you didn't want them to receive, for example.
I'm thinking of the opposite. I'm thinking that there's a combination of events that I'm not capturing, and I want to trigger an alert back to me. Does that make sense? That this is, I'm looking for a threshold that says, hey, look, this isn't right. This is way out of the normal. In other words, an unknown kind of an attack that I would say, hey, I need to escalate this. I don't understand.
So is it, you have a custom Respond rule that does something, it fires, right. It's a big deal. You're imagining a way to quickly get that over to your customer with, for instance, one click?
I'm looking at, what if there's a collection of alerts that are coming in that we haven't addressed, that all of a sudden there's a new vulnerability coming in? How can we have a catch-all or a policy that would direct a focus of my team and maybe the customer at that point? Look, something's happening here that is really unusual, and we need your focus on it.
Okay. Yep, that makes sense. That makes sense. Again, we're just getting started with the mobile app, so we're going to be reaching out to you guys and collecting more information, especially if there's a bigger appetite for this type of customer communication.
Good stuff. Thanks, Liron. Appreciate you fielding those. And Jim will hire a few more developers for you. Don't worry about it.
It's nothing he likes more than hiring developers. That's a fact.
Yeah.
All right. All right. So I'm going to share out my screen. I'm going to keep it in this mode just because it's a little easier for me. But just quick show of hands, if you could, Michelle, humor me. I know this is CIS Control 5. I'll tell you why I'm showing this to you in a minute. But has anybody read the Verizon data breach report that came out, the 2023? It just came out, a few weeks ago. Does everybody know about the Verizon data breach investigative report?
Yeah, I flipped through it a little bit.
Yeah, it's awesome. So we are going to have one of the lead authors on the cyber call in a few weeks, Philip Langlois, who's amazing. But this is really, really fascinating. Some of the things I'm going to show you, or at least I think it's fascinating. You let me know afterwards. Again, Andy, this is where things could get really bad in a hurry, as we already discussed. All right, so realize that this is CIS Control version 8. This is the current version of the controls. The CIS version 8 controls were developed before the pandemic began and released during the pandemic. So picture version 8, give or take now, the background of it is 4 years old. Does that make sense starting off? Right? And Control 5 really hones into the fact that, hey, we know threat actors like to steal credentials, because what an easier way to get into your environment with real credentials than trying to hack into your environment. Okay. So 4 years in the making, CIS came out and said, hey, this is 4 out of 6. Think about this. 4 out of the 6 safeguards are implementation group 1. For those that don't know what implementation groups, CIS fragments, if you will, the importance of each. They used to call them sub-controls. Now they call the main topic a control, account management. And within that, instead of calling them sub-controls, they make them sound nicer, right, Ben? And they call them safeguards. And 4 out of the 6. So think about 80% of the things they want you to do is really for basic, essential, what they call essential cyber hygiene. So any questions as I set the stage here about something that came up 4 years ago as critically important, that because IG1 should be, any business should be IG1 compliant. Anybody have any questions on setting the stage here? No? Okay, Michelle, be my eyes if you could in chat. Okay, well, here we go. 2023, this is about 15,000 incidences. Now, Verizon looks at a metadata, right? Like they look at probably, I don't know how many tens of thousands, but then they whittle it down to something manageable, right? Or about the incidences that they want. So this is a pretty good data set of 15,000 incidences. I don't know. Do you guys see any things stick out at you there in terms of how threat actors are getting into environments?
Oh, you mean we just let them in the door because we don't get rid of accounts when people leave?
One of the things, right? Well,
Yeah.
you know, it's really pointing out that threat actors and the supply chain of threat actors, which Gary, I think you were at SNISFest this year when we did the cyber call on live, and we talked about initial access brokers. So between initial access brokers and what they call info stealing malware, and by the way, we probably won't do it next week because I think, Jim, next week is July 3rd. Is that correct?
No, that next week is the 29th.
Oh, it is. Okay. So,
Following.
okay. So guys, this is something else you might want to tell your peers. I am going to, and I'll let everybody know, I'll let Michelle know, and she can let everybody, we're probably going to have Ryan Weeks on, the former CISO of Datto, who literally is probably one of those brilliant, like he was ranked as one of the top 10 CISOs in the country, along the lines of, when I say one of the top 10, he was ranked with the CISO of AWS. So that's how good Ryan is. Ryan is like literally a computer. He has digested every ounce of the Verizon DBIR, and we're going to bring him on to talk about it. But anyway, for lack of beating this to death, I mean, it's just utterly staggering, where if you take a step back, and I was on a call yesterday talking about this, you know, someone brought up, oh, you know, you got to start, you know, buying, you know, putting more things in your security stack. And my conversation with Ryan, and I'm being iterative, he'll bring this up. And he, you know, he gets pretty fired up. He's like, do you realize if people just focused on password policies, good credential hygiene, this control, right? You know, number 5, patching, and good identity and access management, you'd probably stop. I mean, again, please hear me. I'm not saying don't use EDR, MDR, and those things. I just want to be really clear, along with anti-phishing, anti-malware. The point being is that you don't need a lot of stuff to stop what the threat actors are doing, right? Does that make sense to everybody?
Yeah, it's like it's a good place. You start there rather than trying to start at all this complicated, fancy, fun stuff. Because because the return on investment over here is way more worthwhile, even though it's boring and mundane and minutia and, you know, simple.
Yeah, you nailed it, Ryan. And again, I'll turn this deck over to Michelle to get to you, but I'm hope that, you know, this is like, again, thought leadership or challenge or sell to your prospects and customers to go, look, what if I told you I could put in you know, like $100,000 worth of security solutions, but if I actually just had you guys buy in at the executive level to what we're doing, you know, spend a few more dollars on building the culture, like we could make a monumental difference in your company to make sure that, not to make sure, but to significantly impact, right? Okay. Jim, guess what they use with those credentials? Guess where they go with them?
I can't imagine that they might go to SaaS applications. Could they? Is that possible?
Maybe. Yeah. And again, look at this, everybody. Between, you know, again, and I don't love the way Verizon does this. They call it web application hacking. For lack of a better word, I mean, if you think about it, what is the primary thing everybody uses? It's M365, right? Now, are there other SaaS applications that we're getting, you know, credentials harvested, the Salesforces of the world? Of course. I'm not discrediting that there aren't other applications, but again, look at between, you know, mail servers. God forbid anybody still has Exchange. Does anybody still have a customer with Exchange out there? After
Don't get me
half a million,
started.
huh?
Don't get me
Unfortunately,
started.
yes.
Oh my God. Ryan, you should have a license to literally just go, take a AK, an AR to that, right?
Well, it's basically what happens is the moment we onboard them, I start a clock and they have 90 days to sign a project for that thing, or we isolate their exchange environment and turn off OWA.
Nice.
May I suggest an impact adjustment the next time you're on site?
An impact adjustment.
Yeah, exactly right.
Exactly.
But and you're talking kinetic impact, right, Andy?
Right.
Yes, sir. That's exactly what that needed.
Yeah, exactly. And so, you can see here, right, it goes on to just talk about, specifically, right? And we're going to talk about something called pre-texting. This is really fascinating in a minute. But of course, everything moves into business email compromise and social engineering. So when you hear the objections of, well, no one has any, like, you could understand the objection. And when I say I'm air quoting, okay, realize this, everybody, so you don't shoot me. The objection, we don't have anything anybody will want to steal, in the days when ransomware ruled as king for threat actors. Does that make sense? Oh, well, I don't care if they hold down my pictures or that. We don't have anything. But the threat actors have literally started to get away with even doing ransomware. It's straight data exfiltration, right? It's account compromise, BEC, and data exfiltration. They're even just, excuse my French, screw ransomware. Why even deal with that anymore? Right? We'll just go right to the money, right to the data exfiltration. So we don't care. So this whole contention of we don't have anything anybody would want to steal. Okay, well, I guess you don't care about money then, right? All right. Questions on that?
An observation, Andrew, it's not just the money they take, but any information that's taken out, that's a breach, and it costs. You have to report this, and then it costs, then reputation, right? So it just continues to go down. So it's not just the money that you're going to lose, it's everything. It's the cost to rebuild it. I'm not ransomed. I'm sorry.
No. You're 1,000% correct, Andy. I was just partially being tongue in cheek, how everybody's like, well, I don't have anything they want to steal, right?
You got money, don't you?
Yeah, that's the point these days, is the threat actors don't care whether you think you have valuable stuff or not. They're just going to take your money. They're not going to wait for extortion anymore. They're just taking it, right?
A quick 20-second story. Sorry, Andrew. We just had a client of a client we know directly, who was breached and got hit with they wanted, I don't know, $800,000 in ransom, and the client said, well, we don't, we actually don't have it. And they sent them back pictures of their bank account balances and said, no, you have it.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, no, you have it. Send me the friggin' money.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Send them back pictures of the bank account balances and goes, no, we know you have it. That's why we asked for that money.
What did they do?
They paid it. From my understanding, they paid it just a few weeks ago. I don't know if they're ever, I don't think they wanted to report it. And I don't know off the top of my head who it was, but it's a buddy of mine who runs an MSP up in Jacksonville, one of his clients, but he works for other MSPs around the country. So it could be anybody anywhere.
Yeah, I don't care who it is. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, it was crazy. Send them a picture of the bank account and said, no, we know you have it. That's why we asked for that amount.
This is a great little video that you could attach with the flyer for the 3 open sessions that you have, and say, this is why you want to come, as an example, because this is literally, what do you mean? This really happens? Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And by the way, for any of those who want IT, then Ben has put his card here for us, so that, you can. Okay, this is Ben, I know you know your stuff and got some great security chops. This is really, again, guys, I get into this. If you think I get into it, wait till you see Brian Weeks. This is really fascinating. And by the way, I have the report downloaded in PDF, and it's in chat. I'll shoot it out to everybody momentarily, so you don't have to go to the site and put in your creds and then get them stolen. You'll just let me get mine stolen from Verizon. So this is really interesting. and I have 2 slides, and then I'm going to talk a little about this data. It says increasingly both SMBs and large companies are using similar services and infrastructure, and that means their attack surfaces share more in common than ever before. Hold that thought. As it goes on to talk about the phenomenon began several years ago. Oh, can we say pandemic? And by now there is no, listen to this, there is so little difference based on organizational size that it's hard pressed to make distinctions whatsoever. So let that sink in for a second, and then let's look at some of the data sets here. So now again, SMB under 1,000 employees, maybe I beg to differ a little bit with Verizon about that, but again, we're talking Verizon, but it's still a good enough data set to talk about, right? So under 1,000 employees versus over 1,000 employees, this is really fascinating. Look at the incidents. Well, if you look at basically 700 incidents versus 500, that means, again, when your customers or prospects say, well, you know, we're small. Oh, really? That means you're telling me, by the way, you know what the data says, Mr. Customer, that you're saying you're small? The threat actors attack you 140% more than your enterprise counterparts. Why? Because they know you don't have the sophistication that your counterparts do, and they don't care you're small, right? This is what the data is showing. Furthermore, oh, you don't have anything they want to steal. Well, contraire, the data suggests 170% more they are going to steal your data as relative to your enterprise counterparts or exfiltrate it. So those myths are busted significantly, and because of SaaS and how, you know, the paradox that enterprise has such different infrastructure and applications, shouldn't say everything, so much has moved to the cloud, Jim, that's really what Verizon's saying. You can't delineate enterprise versus SMB anymore. When you look at motives, patterns, etc., it's all the same because they're using the same things relative. I find this fascinating. I love everybody's comments, and it's just incredible to me of what's.
It seems like SMB is more vulnerable because they have less processes defined to protect themselves. 92% of data breaches versus 85 at top patterns.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one of the observations I make just by looking at some of this data set.
Yeah. Andrew, it's almost like this year SaaSers commissioned this report.
Exactly.
But I swear we didn't. We don't have enough money to pay Verizon to commission this report. It's lining up that way.
It's phenomenal. You guys should use a lot of it, Jim. And in fact, in talking, so for those of you that have been to Write a Boom, like a Ben and a Jim, Ryan Weeks is hard at work. We're actually going to be using Verizon's. We were first looking at the community defense model of CIS, but CIS derives so much of their data, in fact, most of it from Verizon. But we're going to be doing a lot of it around this because of so much of it being focused on SMBs and really the customers we serve. But Jim, it's going to be perfect we already have Chip lined up for his session. I think it's going to be perfect for you guys.
Yep.
Okay, this one, get ready to hold on to. If you're standing, you're probably sitting. If your jaw's open, it's probably dropping. So for the first time ever, I'll explain. Pretexting is now more is used more frequently as a tactic than phishing. So what this is saying is, the data is suggesting is threat actors have decided that it's far easier because of the credential compromise and to spearfish internally, Jim. It's far more easy if I take over Michelle's account, let's say, or if I took over your account, Jim, it's far easier for me to just tell your accounting person, hey, and then they sit there, right? And they look for the correct opportunity. They do threading and all these things. It's far easier for me just to tell somebody a believable story to change accounts and do this or do that without any links, without any phishing. I don't need to do it anymore because credentials are so available. Fascinating, I find.
Me too. Me too.
Yeah. Anybody, and look at the drop, again, in ransomware in terms of, not that it's, no longer, used but I mean, like, you remember the days on, Ben Filippelli, who's, I know, again, knows his stuff, like everything used to be, hey, Cobalt Strike, ransomware, and this and that, right? And now look at what the threat actors are doing. Why go through all the headaches?
Exactly. The user is become the place where people are going to go to gain access, right? So you need to protect the user. That's the bottom line. But just every screen you show keeps coming back to protect the user as best you can.
And we got to get the users right, and the culture of that company changing. As MSPs, I think we need to start to think about in our delivery areas, as Gary likes to talk about it, Jim, what is our quote unquote VCIO doing, or our vCISO, in terms of looking at the culture of that organization, right? Because historically it was always around alignment and projects and business. Yes, that's all important. But we've got to start to look at our practice and go, what are we doing in that organization from a culture perspective to get them on board? Because it doesn't matter, all the projects and alignment and all those other, the data is showing it doesn't matter. Ben, I'm sorry, Andy, you had something?
Yeah, just, we're looking at this as something in the rearview mirror, but what's coming up is people are going to be accessing virtual desktops from any device. And how does this force them to be more, they're going to be more vulnerable because they don't have a consistent access. I mean, they have an inconsistent access method. And the way that we're all moving everything to the cloud, this becomes critical. And how do you change that education process? I mean, there's just so much here about what's coming as far as the future of how people interact with their technology.
Well, no, Andy, and I don't disagree. Like, look, I mean, people really need to evolve their access control methods, especially remote sites. Like, I mean, look, if I could wave a wand and budget were no option, like everybody would have either an AppGate, Perimeter 81, Centricom, pick your flavor. I'm not sitting here pitching one over the other, right? But again, it's actually not, the irony is it's not complicated. It's laziness. It's literally laziness. It's why aren't we going to YubiKeys, and why aren't we, where are the pass, where I find incredible is, you find the things like double secret octopus and passwordless solutions at the enterprise, but they're still not scalable down market. So that's the irony of ironies, as I see it. It's not, we're missing like the base, if you will.
And we even tell people, we're talking to our clients, we're like, hacking is the wrong word to use. Letting them in.
Yeah,
these guys aren't hacking. You're just letting them in. It's a big different thing. I know I saw it somewhere on something. Somebody put up a meme about that, and it really stuck with us. We're like, these aren't hackers, breaking in and guys sitting behind the screen that we saw in the movies. These are guys who just bought a script for $20 and send it out to 1 million people. And, half the people are going to click on it and just give them the credentials. So there's no hacking involved. It's just like, oh, I run this little app that I bought for $10 or $20. And look, I got 10,000 people's logins. I mean, that's what's happening.
Yeah. The info stealing malware, Ben, is a real thing. And, Jim, that would be a great shirt in essence for you guys to come up with, like some kind of like Calvin and Hobbes about hacker versus no, I just let the door open, and cover your SaaS or something cool like that for your upcoming, and maybe you guys have a contest instead of cool rules, like actual like design, like who does the best design. I don't think Ben Jones is a good artist, or are you, Ben? Are you good at that too? Or are you gonna have
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good thing we have Michelle on the call. She's the graphic designer here.
All right. So this one, we got only a few more slides. I called this the Hall of Fame because, interestingly, Jim, it says, most commonly, if the attacker is soliciting creds and attain them, they leverage those creds to access users' data in the inbox. I know you guys don't do much in that area, right? Found in 32% of the incidents. They talk about the road less traveled, and it's really fascinating about, 56% of the time, if they do that, they're going to get somebody bank account. So, but my point is, if you think about it, to get in the Hall of Fame, Jim, what do you need to hit? Batting average.
In the Hall of Fame in baseball, you're talking about?
Yeah.
I don't know, 300.
Yeah. Well, here it is. So you might look at that and go, well, it's only 32%. Well, guess what? That's the greatest of the greats.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So you have the great, you might say, oh, it's only 32% of the time, but that's why we have the problem. Because if you think about them are they in the Hall of Fame? They are, right? Yep. Let them get in 32% of the time. They're in the Hall of Fame. And then look what happens 56% of the time. Yeah. So if you've gone through this, I know this is going to sound really sycophantic, but if you're not deploying SaaS alerts everywhere at the end of this thing, shame on everybody, Jim. Sorry, I had to say that, but I mean, seriously, when you look at this, I mean, this data, holy cow! Everybody should take this and go, I'm raising your price by X. Look at this report. We're going to talk about it, and it's not a discussion, right? We're doing this.
Yeah. Speaking of which, I just looked up Derek Jeter, my favorite baseball player of all time, obviously Hall of Famer, batting average 310.
There you go.
Lifetime average.
He's even a little bit lower than the threat actors.
Right.
All right. Lastly, I do a podcast with the head of controls from CIS, Phyllis Lee, with Ryan Weeks and Wes Spencer. It's called the Cybercast. It's free. You don't have to pay anything for it. I'll put Control 5 in chat for you to listen to as an asset. So, Jim, that's what I got on our side today. First, I'm going to send to everybody. There is coming through right now. Oh, that just went to Ben. I apologize. Ben, let me do that again. I sent that to you. Let me send it to everybody. Bear with me. I'm going to send everybody the Verizon DBIR. Bear with me. Everybody. Okay, so here's the PDF coming through right now. And then behind that is the URL to account to CIS Control 5. And Jim, we got a few minutes left here for today. Andy, do you have your hand raised or still raised? You can't tell.
No, new question. Is there any challenge with using some of the content from today's PPT in personal marketing efforts and sales efforts?
I don't think so. Not for Verizon. You mean the Verizon?
No, I'm talking about your PowerPoint, and because you've got some of that. So
I
think that would be helpful.
I'm going to send it to Michelle, and Michelle will distribute it to everybody.
Great.
Yeah.
That was my ask.
Yeah.
Michelle right now.
You're halfway there of creating some educational insights for your prospects with that PowerPoint right there.
And then all you have to do is relate it to real world pieces. And now you've done a challenger sale. What do you know?
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Well, and if you think about it too, Andy, this is where you can combine, like say, like if, if they give you a pushback, say, hey, look, I'm the messenger. So could we do this? This is the data from, it's only Verizon, right? So considered arguably the most important security report, period. Certainly CrowdStrike's is up there. but the gold standard you can tell any customer or prospect is the Verizon data breach. Say, let's run through a tabletop. Hey,
I was just going to say, this morning I had a conversation with a group of small business owners, and they were saying, really trying to understand why password multi-factor authentication is so important. I said, because that's just the gateway. The real issue is once they get access to the cookie, through malware, they can begin to do whatever they want within your environment. And I think there's such a disparity between what we're aware of and what the general population is. I'm trying to continually communicate why this is, how to make a difference.
what I would say though is let's get away from. I would say even like to me, malware is like the boogeyman. Like, ooh, they're gonna encrypt you. I would even like start to get away from it. Like, what if I tell you they don't even need to?
That was the whole point of your presentation today. I'm able to bypass that altogether. It said once they get your credentials, because you're going to give it to them 30% of the time, you're going to give them your credentials. They're going to be able to do anything they want.
Well, it's not they're giving 80 something of attacks are credential based.
Yes.
It's just.
Go ahead. I thought you were talking about the scripts that they use, the methods that they get, that it's going to happen a lot of the time.
Yeah, well, you can tell them basically, look, if your credentials are out there and hey, let's just pretend someone gets them. And this is the tabletop, right? They get your credentials. 1 out of 3, roll the dice. 1 out of 3, they're going to get in. Then they have a 56% chance of escalating privilege or getting somebody spearfish to give account credentials, right? And again, threat actors aren't stupid. Do you think they're going to go for, the janitor's email, or do you think they're going to go for your email, Mr. CEO, or they're not.
And the fact that they're threading on top of that is really more powerful.
Yeah. So that's the stuff, Andy. You can use all of those things to walk through the tabletop. So let's walk through it. What would you do? And by the way, where can you pull out your incident plan and kind of walk through it with me?
If they don't believe in multi-factor or have an awareness of it, they're not going to have an incident response plan for anything, including when the sprinkler system goes off because of a fire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just, it's good questioning, right? When this happens, it wouldn't happen to you, but if it did, right? Good paradoxical statement, Andy. It wouldn't happen to you, but if it did, can you walk me through your incident response plan? What would you do? Just shut up and let them talk.
Yeah, I still can't believe people are pushing back on MFA. I mean,
it's because they still use Yahoo. I'm kind of going, really, guys?
Man, I give you guys so much credit for having these conversations. I would go ballistic, I think, and go across the table with some of these people.
But Jim, what's ironic, remember Executive Director of Wales at the right of boom. Microsoft Enterprise Cloud data suggests the same stats.
Right, 32%.
It's not just SMB.
I know. It boggles my mind.
And now you're responsible, not Microsoft.
Exactly.
Oh, certainly. Certainly.
That's the other part of it. Not only will the threat actor get your information, but you're going to have to pay Microsoft and everyone else that gets on the bandwagon because of it.
Right. It's amazing. We talk to new MSPs all the time, how few of them actually know that Microsoft changed the terms of use last year and that they're now able to hold you, the third party, or the end user company accountable and, for unlawful access to the tenant.
Hey, does somebody have a link to that? Because we have a customer that just literally yesterday, we're a part of a security meeting for a supply chain for one of their upline vendors. And then yesterday afternoon, they got a BEC attack. And I didn't even know that their MSP or the client, because the hacker that got in literally just sent out a mass spam email, right, campaign. So I didn't even know that the client could be held liable. I mean, I would love the link to that specific verbiage.
Yeah. I'll put it, let me grab it real quick and put it in the chat. Anyone else from my team, if you guys have it handy, just feel free. I gotta look for it. We put it in our coverage extension notification. So when people use SaaS alerts, our methodology to reach out and to all their customers and basically say we're doing this and this is why we're doing it. If you don't want it, you need to opt out. We actually put it right in there so people actually understand that the rules have changed. Okay, there it is. Cut paste.
Also, while you guys are waiting, I did drop that PowerPoint into the chat that Andrew presented today, so that's there. Let me know if you can see it. I added it as an attachment. I can see it. I just want to make sure you guys can see it.
Yeah, I just put the terms of use in there specifically. So there you go. It's right in there.
Thank you, Jim.
It's look at the however. That's what they added.
What section is it in? Like what heading? Does anybody know?
Yeah.
Probably do a search, right? Easily just do on however.
It's I'll tell you in a second. Because it's under member account password security. Microsoft will not be liable for any loss that you may incur as a result of someone else using your password or account, either with or without your knowledge. However, you could be held liable for losses incurred by Microsoft or another party to someone else using your account or password. You may not use anyone else's account at any time without the permission of the account holder.
Perfect.
Yeah, so member, account, password, and security. It's well, I don't know, halfway down or something.
Yep, I got it. I'm here.
Yep. So that's
Andrew redeemed himself in today's presentation.
But
next week, Gary, it'll be horrible. All right.
Yeah. And by the way, I mean, we have a slogan here at SaaS Alerts, all partners, all users. The reason we say that is partly because of, how scary this really is. The fact that, Microsoft changed the terms of use because they knew it was coming. And if there's ever any question whether or not you should be putting, I'm not even going to say SaaS Alerts, SaaS security monitoring and remediation on your customer base, all you need to do is read it. And all they need to do is read it to really understand why they need it.
And I guess you could put the exclamation point here at the top of the hour that I think Microsoft has a fairly good data set.
Yeah. I know how good a data set we have. I can't even fathom,
Well,
I guess I can fathom it.
Right. If you think about it, right. See it, Ben. Right. Think about the amount of M365 users there are collectively globally. I mean, the threat intel they have is insane.
I think at this point it's up to 350 million users.
Yeah. So
anyways, Andrew, awesome stuff. Thank you, my friend.
Yeah, and I'll let you know, Jim. I'll let you and Michelle know about Ryan for next week.
Great.
That would be really cool. And then we'll have the third off. I mean, that quote unquote, but then we'll be into a bow shortly thereafter. So it'd be really cool July.
Yeah, exactly. Looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks everybody.
See you, everybody.
Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.